Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 4, titled The Whole World is Watching. Of course, we'll be spoiling. Spoiler warning, spoiler alert. You have enough time. So yeah, let's jump into it. So the episode starts off with a flashback to 6 years ago in Wakanda. And we see Bucky and Ayo, that's the Wakandan we saw from the previous episode. And it seems she was the one helping him along with Shuri with his deprogramming. So we see two of them together, and she's reciting the phrase that the Hydra agents used to take control of his mind. And of course, we see that the deprogramming worked, and Bucky, of course, is crying because he's happy. So this is their history now that we get right here. We then cut back to current time, and of course, she's asking Bucky why they broke Zemo out knowing what he did, that being killing King T'Chaka. Um, but Bucky explains to her, that this is a means to end and they need him for to stop this crisis, then I would call it. And she tells him, okay, but we'll only give you 8 hours with him and then we're going to come for him. So basically, this puts them on a timeline and they need to work quick. So we now cut to what would be inside of Zemo's apartment or home. um, and we see Bucky arriving, and all three of them are there. Um, of course, if you look at the window pane behind them, there's stars, of course, reference to America, blue, white, red. Um, and we see all of them are speaking basically. And first things first, we get the report on the news now that the GRC was hit by the explosion in the last episode, and we find out 11 people were injured, 3 were killed. Um, so Bucky tells the news to Sam. We then cut now, well, not really cut, but we get Zemo's perspective on this, and he's trying to tell Sam basically that more than likely stop looking for the good in Kali, she's bad. Um, reiterating his point that people are bad when they get powers like this. Um, and of course, they have the point that is brought up where Zemo, while Zemo is saying this, they mention Steve and how he wasn't changed by this, he remained good. And Zemo reiterates to that by saying, well, that's true, but has there ever been a second Steve Rogers? He was the only one that took the serum and remained true to him and himself without being corrupted. Because we saw in a callback to Hulk when Abomination took the serum, he kind of went off the rails and became arrogant, or started becoming arrogant, and tried to fight Hulk as a human. And what happened? And we could see that kind of happening with Kali here as well. Um, Another thing about this episode, just a heads up, I would call this episode the descent into madness, or slow descent into madness for John Walker. But we then cut to the flag smashers. We see them sitting in what seems to be a empty, burnt down, or something like that area with a house. And they are getting the news, and they're finding out one of the workers only started working there a week ago, and he had a child and he died. And basically, it hit home now that I guess some of them may realize that killing is bad. Then cut now to Zemo, Sam, and Bucky, and they're here at the refugee camp. And Zemo mentioned that he would come here back in the day when he was younger to party. Um, and each of them now set off to get information on Kali and Dunya. Um, so Sam goes upstairs and tries to get information and tries talking to a few people up there, and they just ignore him or say they don't know and leave and lock the doors. Um, he does come across, of course, a container, and it has the flag smasher symbol, the hand symbol on it. So he knows that they're here. Um, we see Bucky trying to speak to some people downstairs, and they didn't give him any information. And we cut back to Sam, who meets someone upstairs. I believe it's a teacher, and they have a little back and forth. Basically, Sam is trying to understand and help them, not just like Walker, who's trying to fight his way into everything. But the man says he's not going to tell them anything, basically, and he knows people like Sam, and they say they're going to help, but they don't. Um, so yeah. Hmm. We then cut to Zemo now singing Baba Black Sheep downstairs, and he goes up to a group of kids and he takes out Turkish Delights candies and he puts it on a chair, and they come and they get it, and he starts asking them questions about Madani. And he mentions that that's his old friend and he would like to find out about the funeral and all of that. And he also tells the kids not to tell Sam and Bucky anything because they are bad men. So he alone knows the information. So he gets that information and they leave and they head home. When they head home, Sam and Bucky are speaking, normal conversation about Zemo and information, and they couldn't get information. We see Zemo making some tea as well, cherry blossom, I believe he said it was. And basically, they asked Zemo what the information was, and he said that the little girl told him where the funeral was. It is today, but he cannot give Bucky and Sam that information. He's keeping it as leverage. Of course, that's because if he gives them the information, the Dormilaje could come and take him, or Bucky could turn him into them, and then Zemo is essentially dead because I think they may kill him. So yeah. Um, Another note is while that is going on, Bucky gets really pissed off and throws one of the glasses against the wall. And he's basically mad Zemo is trying to hold them or hold the information as a hostage, so they would need to keep him around. Sam parts the fight and says he's going to make a call, and we see him call Sharon. Sharon answers the call and we see her in this kind of sketchy area. It's all dark. There's guys with guns, and she tells Sam, of course, that the power broker is mad because of killing Nessel, and because, of course, now he has no serum and he can't make any serum, and that Magic Boy is going to turn into chaos. Sam apologizes, but he needs Sharon's help, of course, and he asks her if she can help with spying, I guess, on Captain America or John Walker. So we then cut to Carly and one of the other Flag Smashers walking through the graveyard, and it's the guy's grandfather's grave, I believe. And we see him push something under the tomb or whatever that is. I don't know the exact name. And he takes out or they take out the serum from there because they was hiding it by the grave, under a rock, in the grave, whatever it is there. And they have the 12 vials in a fanny pack, and Carly straps it around her. And basically before they leave, they have this kind of philosophical conversation and aspect where the guy says that you know Captain America was like a symbol, and he looked up to him when he was young. And Carly says she's scared, or she feels scared or nervous for doing this or what she's going to do next. And the guy tells her that his grandfather, who was a World War II soldier as well, used to say when you feel scared about doing something, most times you're doing the right thing. So I don't agree with that, but that's their little conversation, and then they leave. We now cut back to our best three, that being Sam, Bucky, and Zemo, and they're coming out of the apartment or the home and walking up the street, and we see John Walker and, of course, Lamar coming to meet them. Of course, they're mad that this happened because, of course, Zemo got broken out of jail. So they walk up to them and they start being loud at first. And he's like, why did you break him out? Why do this? Why do that? Bucky basically says, well, technically we didn't break him out. He broke himself out. So yeah, and they begin going towards an alley and going up the alley. And then going up the alley, we get more of John Walker trying to take the lead, and he wants to break into the funeral and do this and do that and stop it. And Sam tries to talk him down, and it's like, Sam is being the voice of reason here, and he's like, well, she's going through grief. I am accustomed dealing with this. I know how to do it. Let me go in by myself and try to talk her down and reason with her then, and be, like a normal human being, connect on some level and try to solve what's going on. And even Lamar agrees with him and tells John to, let Sam try first, and then, we could go fight and do all that jazz. Of course, while walking up the alley, now Zemo meets the little girl. He gives her some money for her parents, and she takes them to the area where the funeral is being held. Also, we see now when they get there, John, we see the cracks start to form in John from here. With first he cracks forming on John, where he basically handcuffs Zemo to the broiler. Well, I believe that's a broiler, and of course Sam goes on ahead to talk to Carly. We see the funeral procession going on, and we see Carly giving a little speech about how great this lady was to her and how she helped her. We see a quick glimpse of Sam up in the upper region of the building, then looking down at the funeral procession. We cut back then to John, and again here we begin to see him cracking more, because we see he has little tics or nervous reactions, so he's wiping his eyes, he's pacing back and forth, watching the clock, um, things like that. But we see all four of them, they're still waiting on Sam. And then we cut back to Sam and Carly basically having their discussion. And their discussion basically entails Sam trying to connect to her and explain to her what she's doing isn't necessarily wrong, but it isn't right. And she's explaining her justifications while he's trying to connect and understand. So he's not trying to be just a soldier and a superhero to help with fights. He's trying to connect so he can help other ways. And he does this by also asking her a question and about the people that she killed, and she responds by saying she would kill them again. And I guess this was him trying to let her realize what she's doing is wrong, because she realizes and she's like, she didn't mean it like that. But I think that got his point across to her. We then cut back to basically John trying to go inside, but he stops him at first, and John tells him it must be that easy with the serum inside you. So first hint that he feels, I wouldn't say weaker, but he maybe feels inferior to the super soldiers in that aspect and the flag smashers, because he's just a human, whereas they are super powered. Then we get more of the Sam and Carly interaction, because of course, like I said, he isn't trying to fight, he's trying to reason with her. And it seems that he's actually getting through before, of course, Captain Douchebag shows up and ruins the moment. Because he comes in heavy and or heavy-handed and tries to be mean. He doesn't try to, talk. He escalates the situation. Then this leads to Carly basically punching him, well, the shield, and she goes on the run. And we get a little chase scene with her and Bucky. They're jumping up the stairs and jumping over banisters and running through crowds and all of that. We then cut to the boiler and we see Zemo had freed his handcuffs, or freed himself from his handcuffs. And we get that the chase led into what would seem some sort of empty dead end room, because Sam and Bucky run into each other and basically they lost Carly. We then cut to Carly running down the stairs, and when she got downstairs, we see Zemo, and he has a gun and he starts firing off rounds at her. One manages to hit her in the stomach, I believe, and she drops the bag or the fanny pack with the vials in them, and she hides behind a table. Zemo then proceeds to walk up to the vials, and of course he asks her if these are the serums. We know he hates them, so he starts smashing on them, and he destroys them, or so we think. Because while he's destroying them, Walker appears and he throws his shield and hits Zemo in the head. When he hits him in the head, he walks up, and in this image we can also see that to me at least, that Cap is looking a bit darker. It's the lighting, of course, but it also shows that he's a bit darker here. So more to him, or more reference to him turning darker here. He then looks over and sees one of the vials on the ground, and he pockets it, of course, because why not? And then we get confirmation that Carly was actually shot. We see an image with her with a band-aid on her stomach somewhere here, and well, she's shot. Then we see the flag smashers and her having a little talk. Basically they want to kill John Walker, and also she asks about the vials, and we find out that yes, the vials were destroyed, and there's none left, or so we think, because of course Cap has one. Um, the Asian flag smasher then comes in and he tells Carly basically that this they're basically having a back and forth about what they're going to do next because they can't battle two wars on the same front because the power broker messages and says that basically he's coming for them and he's going to kill them. And we know why, because of course Natal is dead, they stole the serums are destroyed. However, he could keep them as hostages and use their blood like what they did to Isaiah Bradley. Um, but we get that little thing there, and then we cut to what seems to be Sam sending a message to Sharon, and he tells her to keep an eye on Walker, and if he moves on Carly to let him know. So of course Sharon is using her satellites to do this, and we get the first of one scene that basically mirrors another in the show. It's like a parallel to something. But we see Zemo on his chair, laying, nursing his head, of course, with a drink. And he asks Sam two questions. He asked him if he would ever take the serum if the government offered. And Sam said no. Then he asked him, would you ever take the serum, I think in general, or something to that effect. But Sam basically says no and says he wouldn't take the serum. And that shocks Zemo. Um, so maybe Zemo is realizing that not everyone is bad and is power hungry for such power. That sounds weird, power hungry for power. Anyway, yeah. Bucky then comes in and he mentions that something isn't right with John. He's crazy basically. And he knows that because of course crazy knows crazy, and Bucky says he is crazy, so that's why he knows he's crazy. There's a lot of crazies in that one sentence. Crazy. Um but yeah, and as they're speaking about him, he kicks through the door and walks in with his shield. And it looks like he's ready to square up to fight for some reason. Like he has anger issues. Sam is trying to, de-escalate the situation and speak some sense into him, but he wants Zemo, and he basically goes about this by telling Sam if he wants to fight him and he'll make it fair, he puts down the shield. That is so trash. Um, but yeah, when he goes to step up again to go at Sam, the Dormalage appear and they stop that little interaction because one of them threw their spears and it landed right in front of Walker's face. Um, and they come in and we see it's three of them. Two come through the door and then the one that was behind somewhere who threw the spear. Um, of course, they tell Bucky that even though he's a means to end, your time is up. They need to take Zemo. Of course, Walker tells them, he's Captain America, and this is not their jurisdiction, and he tries to play the power card, assuming he has more power than them, and he tries to be nice, and he tells them, he puts his hand on one of them and tries to tell them something, and that starts a fight, basically. Um, and they proceed to have a cool mini fight between Walker and Battlestar and Three Dormalagi. And we see Walker getting his ass handed to him. We see Battlestar getting his ass handed to him. We see Zemo standing, drinking, watching them get their asses handed to them. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And we see Sam and Bucky chilling, and Bucky is there cheering on Walker, and he's like, "You're doing good, pretty good, yay." Um, so yeah, and we then get what we didn't expect to get, I guess, which is the fight begins to escalate a little more or get more serious, and Zemo uses this opportunity to slip into a bathroom. And he slips into the bathroom, closes the door, and we see the handles turn and lock. We then see John Walker was on the ground and he's getting up to use his shield, it seems. And one of them throws their spear at him and they throw the spear through the loop or the straps on the shield that straps onto your arm. So it goes in and pins his arm and the shield to a table. And basically he's out of the fight there, he's struggling to get out. And it looks like she's about to kill him, maybe. And that's when Bucky and Sam step in to try to help. Bucky, of course, tries to talk to Io and talk her down. And she does some kind of ninja move and stabs him like here and here with her fingers, and basically deactivates his arm and it drops off. Um, so yeah, and he's shocked because he didn't know that could happen. Of course, Sam saved Battlestar from getting his ass handed to him as well. And the fight basically stops there. And the Dormilaje she open the door where Zemo was, and they see that he ran away through a tunnel. And then there's a cool scene here. The cool scene here where one of them do the Captain America move where she stamps on the shield and it goes up to her hand and she catches it. And it looks like she's about to take the shield and leave with her, but Io tells her to leave it and she gives it back to Walker. And then we get more of Walker cracking mentally because we see him looking down like this and he's like, but they weren't even super powered. So again, more of him feeling inferior, I guess, to not just super soldiers now, but to normal people, because I believe he may have thought that he was, since he was chosen, he may have been top of the class with fighting and whatever, but these people from around the world are making him feel some form of inferiority here now. And Bucky, Bucky and Sam go to the bathroom, and Sam says that Zemo pulled a Escobar, a Pablo Escobar, basically escaping through the tunnels. That was funny. And now this is the other scene that I was talking about that parallels the Zemo and Sam discussion. This parallels that because we have Walker and Lamar speaking now, and they're at what seems to be some sort of cafe, and basically it's Lamar and him speaking about, first they mention about, they talk about things that happened in the war and the medals and the things that they had to do for those medals, bad basically. um but the interesting part of this conversation now is they talking about the serum, and Lamar, he asked Lamar if he would take the serum if he got the chance, and this kind of mirrors Sam's answer then. However, Lamar says yes. So he does not exactly say the same thing as Sam, which said no. And Lamar's justification is this serum makes you more of who you are. Example, Captain America, Flag Smashers, they became more of who they truly are. However, we see this isn't always true because it corrupts you. Example, Red Skull, Abomination. So yeah, so I guess Walker is thinking hard on this decision whether to use the formula or not. Um, so yeah, someone also comes up to him and asks him for an autograph, so he's well known. That's good. We then cut to, I guess, Louisiana, I believe it is. We see Sam's sister. She gets a phone call from Carly, and Carly basically threatens her and her two sons. Um, but the main purpose of this call is she's trying to understand Sam, and she trusts Sam, and she wants his sister to deliver a message for her because she probably doesn't believe she can call Sam and just drop that message. Um, so we see Sam gets the message. Of course, his sister tells him that he was threatened, and they're going to go to the rooftops above some North Plaza. Carly sent him a text or something to that effect. Um, so yeah, we get that, and we see Sam and Bucky now show up to here, and Carly is there, of course, and they begin talking, and she tells him to join his side. Basically, she doesn't want to kill him, just Cap. And we see Sharon now chime in, and she tells Sam that Walker is on the move, and he's coming there, or he's going to the other location. And of course, Bucky jumps down to go. Carly smashes him into the wall. That's badass. But basically, this proceeds to Sam and Bucky going to meet Captain America and Lamar, or Battlestar. And they get there. We see Lamar and John break into this area, and they go up some stairs. And I think Lamar has the lead, so he goes up the stairs, and John is there waiting on him, but he calls to him on the earpiece and doesn't hear from him. So he goes upstairs and he sees his gun on the ground. Have more cracking here, I guess. So first he breaks through a door. We see Lamar has been kept as a hostage. He's tied up on the ground. So yeah, they basically knocked him out and had him as a hostage. Yeah. Um, The next thing to note now is that we see John walks past a mirror that seems to be scratched up, or a doorway with a mirror that's scratched up. And to me, this is more reference to him cracking mentally, or how he feels, and his vision being distorted, or him being distorted with the scratches. So that's what I get from this little imagery here. Um, we then see someone attacks him, and he fights them off a bit, and he throws the shield at the wall. And this is our first hint that he may have taken the vial already, because he throws the shield and it goes into the wall. We then see him and the Flag Smasher proceed to fight, and Falcon arrives, and we see John kicked the guy down the stairs into a wall, and then the guy took up a piece of metal to hit him, and he bent the metal. So more hints of that, and Sam asked him what he did. We see Lamar managed to free himself, of course, and Bucky is going up some stairs and is jumped by a Flag Smasher, and he fairly easily dispatches him and kicks him through a wall and tells him to stay there. We then get the big scene, which is Sam and Cap arrive to the room where they think everything is, and some Flag Smashers attack them. We see a little back and forth, and Cap asks why is there so many knives. So yeah, and they proceed to fight, and this fight is going on, and we see some cool moves with the shield throwing, Sam using his jetpack to burn someone with the heat. Um, Bucky comes in, he's using his little hand-to-hand combat. Um, so yeah, Lamar saves Cap though, because the Flag Smashers get Cap in a hold basically, and Carly is about to stab him, but Lamar comes in and tackles her. However, Carly gets up and punches him really hard in the chest, and we see him go flying across the room into a pillar, and basically he falls. So he hits the pillar and crumples and falls, and we see blood coming out of his mouth. And this is where the break fully happens, and basically John loses his shit. So he goes over and he starts asking Lamar about certain day, if he's alive to wake up, and you know, checking to see if he's good. Lamar doesn't wake up and the music cuts out. We see Carly take off her mask and she's shocked, probably realizing that she messed up. So it was at this moment that he knew that he fucked up. Um, and they all take off running, and we get what is a reference to actual Captain America move from one of the movies, where he runs and jumps through the window with his shield and lands on the ground, and he gives chase to the Flag Smasher, the same guy whose grandpa was a soldier. The guy tries to throw a concrete bin at him, I think, and Cap destroys it, and then we see Cap catches him in a public area by a fountain, I believe, and basically he's pissed off. The guy saying he didn't do it, and Cap proceeds to beat him with the shield, like slam the shield on him a few times. I don't know if he decapitated him or he caved in his chest, but we see blood all over, and blood on the shield, and we see everyone is watching. Of course, this is reference to the title of the episode, which is the whole world is watching, so we know why. But of course, this would get broadcasted because everyone is recording. And Sam and Bucky arrive just as it ends. We see Carly watching, and everyone is watching this, and we get a cool pic of him standing with the bloody shield. So this is all in all a good episode. I enjoyed it. This showed us more of the actual US agent character from the comics, how dark he's going. Of course, like I said, we got hints throughout this with imagery and whatnot, how he's turning darker and darker and cracking. So next episode, hopefully we get the power broker and we see how he took the vial of serum and what he did. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys did. I'll see you all next week for the next one. If you have any questions, leave it down below. If I missed anything, let me know. I didn't see much comic book references opposed from those that I just mentioned, with the references to how dark he's going, like the comic book. So yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.